Okay, so last week we left off here. I had just finished inking in this figure here. I'm ready to move on to the other figures. So let me go ahead and get started. I need ink ready. So, okay. Hope everyone is doing well this wonderful Saturday afternoon. I did wake up a little late myself, but that's only because I wanted to sleep in. I'm usually seriously up every day about 6 or 7. It's just kind of how I'm wired. I don't usually get started with my day until maybe about 8. Just, checking email, seeing what projects I actually have that I'm going to be working on for the day. It's sitting on my agenda. But I decided I want to sleep in today, and I'm not necessarily regretting it, but I do wish I had gotten up a little earlier than 11 a.m. So, but hey, I'm here. And I am ready to begin the rest of this fun stuff. So today, my plan is to finish inking all of the figures. And I'm going to start with this guy all the way over here. I need to not have that going. Okay. So during the week, I pretty much spent most of my week, if I wasn't playing games, I was watching videos of other artists. Just, it's what I do. I think it's fun. Watching other professionals do their thing. Super cool. And I came across a video that I was not terribly a fan of. And it bothered me in a way that I have never thought that I could be really annoyed with a video by another artist. And it was, the artist in question had pretty much, I guess he had found out that there was something called the Museum of Bad Art. And so he decided to make a video talking about it, and in his own way kind of poke fun at the artists who made said bad art. Well, not necessarily poke fun at, but I guess in a way he thought he was helping by, saying, oh, well, how can I fix this? Is this something I can do? And so he decided to, I guess, make it better. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have a serious problem with that. First of all, the pieces that he showed, I'm going to start off with saying this instead. When it comes to what a lot of people would consider to be bad art, is a lot of times just a person's learning phase. And it's not necessarily meant to be the type of art that we would consider museum quality. The person who created it knows that, hey, this is not my best work, but hey, I learned how to do this thing. Or maybe in their head, it is their best work. Maybe to them, it is their best work. And that's significant too. And it's impolite for any of us, myself included, to just turn around and say, hey, this is bad art. This is not good, because the point of it is, to that person, it is good. It's worth every bit of the materials that they used. It is worth every bit of the hours that they spent working on it. And I think it's really bad form for any artist, any professional artist especially, to turn around and say, ha ha ha, your art is so bad. Let me try to help you. Let me fix it for you. Like, no, that's not your place. That's not. And I was really, really disappointed in this person. And I mean, honestly, he's a artist with a pretty big following, much bigger than mine. And, you know, I don't believe for a moment that, you know, any commentary that I personally make about his work is really going to affect him that much. I mean, you never know. It can. And for many artists, it actually does. You know, hearing, you know, that the thing you made was really bad. And that's my point. You know, you as a professional artist looking at someone else's work and basically saying, like, this is so bad, let me see if I can help you make this better, when you yourself are also the kind of person who would get really upset if you feel that your own work isn't up to your personal standards. And I think that's pretty shitty to do, actually. I think that's a pretty awful thing to do to someone. To just turn around and say, you know, that their art is that bad, that they clearly need help. You know, maybe they do need help, but I'm going to tell you right now, the help that they need is not something that you're going to be able to give them. Not with that attitude, it's not. When you think about, everyone is at a certain point with their work and with their skills. And if you're going to sit there and be that kind of judgmental and that particular kind of critical about someone else's work, I really, really do think that, you know, you need to stop and take a look at where you've come from, your own work, and really say to yourself, you know what? How did I become a better artist? Was it through actual critique of my work? Was it people coming to me and laughing at my work and saying this is so bad? Or was it through actual supportive voices saying, you know, hey, this is great. Maybe instead of doing this, you could try this. I really just have a serious problem with the idea that in order to critique someone's work, you have to be kind of insulting about it. I don't agree with that at all. That's just never anything I can get behind. So anyway, he had gone on his whole thing about this particular person's work, and he even did a redo of their painting, and I just really thought that was bad for him. For the simple fact that, again, you are a pretty popular professional artist, basically sitting there and redrawing someone's attempt at making something that actually was meaningful to them in a way that, you know, was more your look, the way you would have done it, when in reality, no one asked you to do that. You know, this was not something for you to step into to say, hey, I can make this better for you. I feel that in any attempt that we as artists make to improve someone's work needs to be more compassionate. We need to be going to that person and saying, hey, I saw your work and I love where you were going with it, and I think, you know, had you gone this route instead, you could have actually reached this goal of what you were trying to do. You know, I saw what was happening here, and I have some ideas of ways that you can improve your work if you're interested. I think that is the better way to do that, as opposed to publicly making fun of that person's work and, you know, to your audience and deciding that that's what you're going to do. And, you know, something like that, when you are that type of artist, when you do have that type of reach, you end up forcing your own audience to also participate in what is effectively dragging this person. And that's also pretty bad, because now you've just potentially humiliated this person for everyone to see. Now, after maybe a day or two of digesting that video, I had come across a few other videos that, you know, talked about artists, education and everything, and I thought, okay, maybe it was still on my mind, and I'm like, you know, I really want to go and just take a look at this video. I don't know if I'm going to make a comment about it, on it, or if I'm just going to, you know, ignore it. Maybe I'll go and thumbs down the video just because I thought it was pretty bad. I went to go check the commentary and to do, you know, to make some kind of statement, I guess. And I had seen that he had actually, he kind of attempted to apologize. I think he had been called out. Other people had, you know, said something about the video to him directly or maybe even indirectly. And he did address a little bit of what his thinking was with what he did. And to me, wasn't necessarily good enough. It wasn't really an apology. Like, I think he was trying to apologize, and it just, the apology just wasn't, there wasn't the actual, hey, I'm sorry that I said and did this. And that, I didn't want to say anything else at all that he probably hadn't already heard at that point. I moved on from that video, and I want to say that I think it's really improper for any artist with any sort of major following to use their voice in a way that basically tears down other people or humiliates other people. I think that's just not good work. That's definitely not the sort of thing that I feel that artists should be engaging in. Again, we have all been at a place where our work was not where we wanted it to be. And we look at the work that others do and we're saying to ourselves, man, my work could be so much better. I wish I could do this, that, and the other. And I think it's far more worth it when we can talk to who those other artists are and say, hey, you know, your work is really great. How can my work get to that level of polish? How can I do better work? How can I get my pieces to look as good as yours? Or, you know, what do I need to do to increase my own skill? And then we as artists are helping to uplift and bring up our, you know, our industry by saying, okay, here's what you do. You're going to have to put a lot of work into it. This is where your work is. It looks great as is. Maybe take some life drawing classes. Maybe take some extra painting classes so you know how to blend color properly. Maybe, you know, do some more work with still lifes. You know, these sort of drilled activities so that you can bring your skill level up. And then once you feel that it's at a really great place, then go back to this painting that you did and redo it. you yourself as the artist of this piece, go back and recreate this painting for yourself and see what it is that you can improve on. Like, how can you make this better? Create this piece as a sort of study piece. And I think that's fantastic, and I think that's definitely worth doing as artists. I would hate for us to get to the point where I'm going to go in here and fix a little bit of this. I don't want that sword just resting on the ground. I don't think that's really great. Well, actually, hold on a minute. But I think it's really kind of an awful thing to do to a person, to humiliate them for views. I don't agree with that at all. And I love listening to other artists. You know, probably on the ground is going to be best, because, you know, I just realized it's going to be interacting. That's going to be a really awkward dividing line. I don't want that. Okay, we're just going to stick with what we've got. I think that we as artists can do better for each other, and I think that's an example of when better could have been done, and it just wasn't. As myself being an artist when I was in school, I used to have other friends of mine who were other artists who, you know, would also say things like that to me, like, hey, you know, this is great. How can I, you know, you're so good at this. And I'm like, it always really kind of bothered me and maybe a little perplexed me when I had, you know, other artists come to me and, you know, point out the things that I did well, when I'm just like, I look at my work and it's not where I want it to be, you know? And, you know, so I did my best to, you know, give them a little help when I could, but I never just volunteered the comment of, oh, this could be better if you do it this way. That's not how you help people. And I think if you're going to put together a platform that is designed to get people interested in what you're doing and inspire them to also do the same thing, I think there's a way to do that better than, you know, kind of rubbing their nose in it that they're just not as good as you. Again, that's pretty shitty. So, you know, I mean, there's a difference. I love showing off my work, and I love sharing, you know, that work with other people and saying, hey, look what I did. I feel really good about this. But I don't do that with the intent of making someone feel guilty that their work isn't as good as mine, because I don't look at it that way. I'm not in that type of competition with other people that, you know, my work always has to look better than theirs. My work needs to look better than what I've just done. You know, maybe if there was a, you know, I can't even say that I actually tend to stay away from art competitions like that. I don't feel comfortable in gauging in any type of competitive art anything. It bothers me a lot. Part of it is because I always keep thinking that, you know what, my work, I'm worried about my work being seen, and I'm worried about how my work will be received. just like I think a lot of different artists are, where you're thinking, oh, well, maybe I won't win because it's just not good enough. And, I feel that. I really do. Because I still have confidence issues when it comes to my own work. But, I feel that the idea of pitting people against each other as a form of entertainment in art, I think is just not a solid, positive thing to do. I think it's very, very wrong. And I have, to other people in other art groups that I've been in, I've actually voiced that very opinion that, if. And I said this to a person once who was looking to have a competition, an art competition for someone to, I guess, design a logo or something that he was going to use for something commercial. And I have a couple of different feels about that. I think that's also very wrong. But it's just, trying to get people to be in competition with each other. The art industry already is highly competitive when it comes to education and jobs in general. And then we only seem to work to instill that type of competitiveness in artists in every single day ways where, well, we have to look at, the way this person did this as opposed to this. What level are we basing this on? Like, are we saying, well, this person's art doesn't look as good as this person's here? Or are we saying, well, according to the look that we're going for, this is closer to what we need than this one is? Again, that's the general competitive nature of the art industry that I've seen when it comes to, again, jobs and education. Because, yeah, even art education is competitive. The portfolio that you have to show, to anyone who's going to say, okay, well, we can do something with your work. Maybe we can teach you more about how to do this, that, and the other. Maybe even that is just an oversimplification, or me just really taking very personally and very seriously how I feel about that. And maybe it's not that at all, but I look at what it takes for a person to get a job in the industry, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's so much more than just saying, oh, this person's work, they can be taught how to do this is great. I think that there's a way that we can get people to really work on their art without finding ways to compare them to other people. And that's the other point to be made, is that we already have situations where people are comparing themselves to each other. And when we say, oh, well, this isn't as good as so-and-so's work, we kind of have to remind ourselves that, well, I wasn't trying to recreate so-and-so's work. I was trying to create my own. I was very influenced by this person here, so I decided to make something how they do it, to try a technique in their own style, perhaps. And I've spoken about style before. Not necessarily trying to do what they do. And I really do have to wonder what the point is of all the extra competition that we keep trying to force ourselves to engage with. Nice big broad shoulders. So it's the competitiveness in the art industry and how it's reinforced by artists using their platforms to deconstruct other artists' work and say, well, this person could have done this better by blah, 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 blah. And I get that for some people, they consider themselves helping. They think that, well, you know, if no one's going to be critical about this person's work, then how are they going to get better? And my question is, why is that your job to do? Why are you taking upon yourself to publicly humiliate and tear down this person, because that's really what you've managed to do? How is it, and why is it your job to do that? Why can't it be that maybe this person has a mentor that they go to that is not you, that they talk to and they discuss their work with? Why did you make this your job to do? That's my question. What possessed you to take it upon yourself to do that? And I think that's the question that's, you know, maybe some people feel as though they won't be able to answer. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't even know anyone who is an art teacher who would do that. This is something that happens specifically with professional artists. And not just professional artists, but just people who, you know, have an opinion about someone's work. They don't even have to actually be artists themselves. They could just have an opinion about someone's work and say, well, you know, you're just going to have to get used to the criticism because this is how the real world works. This is how it always is. And to those people who themselves are not in the professional industry of which they are criticizing or trying to reinforce, I think that it's very patently wrong for them to involve themselves in the discussion of what that industry is like if they are not themselves professionals within that industry. You're not an artist. Why are you talking about what other artists need to do in order to become professionals? This is not your job. Unless you specifically are a person who guides the careers of artists, which it doesn't sound like you are. It sounds like you're just a person who has gotten used to the way that we do things in our society. And you're just trying to reinforce that type of thinking because you don't know any other way. And truth be told, we don't. We don't really know any other way to do what it is we're trying to do. So we continue to reinforce the same beliefs and the same thinkings. And that's problematic. But when it comes to other artists as well, and this is really what I want to focus on. Other artists who also tend to reinforce this very unfortunate negative thinking of we have to, you know, use our platforms to tear down the work of other artists. Why? Why can't we just say, hey, you know, this piece was really great. I think that this person's work looks really good. And I think that, maybe here I can see some areas for improvement. But I think that where this person is, this is a fantastic piece. And I think it's really a shame that, it's being shared here in what is called the Museum of Bad Art, because this isn't really bad. And a lot of the examples that he showed on, this particular artist showed on his video, I thought were really actually solid pieces. And I think that with more work and more effort and more, skill, more practice, this person who created that piece could have done some amazing work. Like, absolutely. And what ends up happening also, I think, is the thing that does come up is as we as artists are constantly comparing ourselves to the work that other people have done, we jump into pieces that, maybe had we had a little more practice with, or some concepts that are just beyond our skill and our capacity to do. I think had we approached that in a different way, we probably would have accomplished everything we set out to do. Well, that doesn't always happen. So it is what it is. And that's fine, because something like that I look at and I'm like, honestly, I can see it changing, but I think we're going to drag our feet to that change. We're going to say, maybe we should not do this anymore. Maybe this is what's causing us the anxiety that we're feeling when it comes to our own work. And maybe if we just try this a different way, or we don't do it this way, then we can. But I think that'll take some effort on our part to do. Wow, that rant got me through 3 characters. So what I'm saying is, let artists just be. Just let those student artists, those artists coming up, those people, the dabblers, the people who just want to create a piece just because they love the medium or they want to try their own hand at it. Maybe they'll look at a piece that really inspired them and say, I want to do something like that. And they sit down and do it and they say, well, it's not as good as so-and-so's. So maybe I feel bad about it. Or, maybe I say, you know what? I like my attempt. I think there's room for all those people to continue to develop their skills and to really create the art that they actually want to see more of. And I think that's valid. I think that's not only valid, I think that's, a merit right there in their favor. I think that's saying, you know what? Let these people just create. You know what? His hand is missing. So what I'm going to do is draw it in. We have to do this a certain way. If you were here with me last week, you would have seen that my original plan for these 2 characters here, for their hands to be, for basically they were holding hands. And then I instead decided that her hand is going to be way back here holding up her staff. So trace that line there, and there's her staff. But I never fixed his hand. Didn't even occur to me. So, we're gonna go in there and see if we can get that in there. Now, how should his hand be? I don't want to make another fist. I have enough fists on the page. Okay. Huh. I'm just now seeing this chat message. Oh, hi, Gamer Lord 090. If you will draw a dog for me, I will donate 100. That's very kind of you, but right now, this is what I'm working on. Not currently taking art requests. Have this project in mind, so I do want to finish this project before I start considering taking requests. But thank you for, coming by and saying hello. I appreciate that. I really do. Okay, so let me see what else we've got going on here. Let me try to fix his hand now. It's actually really going to have to go right in front of her, since otherwise it's going to be a very awkward place for his hand to be. Is somehow behind her, even though she's behind him. So... Okay, so there's that. His arm is in place now. Also, early this week, was it early this week, or maybe it was sometime last week, there was... So every once in a while, I just kind of get in the mood to draw things. And I think that's a good thing for an artist to have. Those random moods where you just, yeah, let's create something. So that tends to happen to me fairly frequently. So I had created a piece that, if you have seen the Facebook page, you would have seen what it was. And I was just inspired by something else I was seeing. So I forget what other video I was watching. It was clearly someone else's art video, and I do believe the discussion was centered on style. And I said, I just want to do something in a different way than what I normally do. Once upon a time, when I had been creating my work, I had been really just experimenting with different techniques for that work to look like. So we have my normal kind of almost comic book-esque style here that I've got, the completely defined characters, solid outlines, that sort of thing. And then there was obviously the more painterly visions of characters and paintings, because I'm also a painter, not just with watercolor but also oils. I've used oils before. I think the newest medium that I'm trying to experiment with and play around with and get to use is acrylic. I just haven't had nearly as much experience with it as I would like to, but that's okay. So I will eventually be able to do that. So this is actually the trim of her coat, not her hair. So when I start adding color, you'll notice that it's going to be very different than what her hair color actually is. And so I kind of went back to that original look for me. Where there wasn't a focus on proportion in any way. And it was fun for me. And drawing and painting are always fun for me. But, really being able to just kind of draw a figure without focusing on their anatomical proportions in any way, that's always been my jam. And so just throwing that together and then seeing how it looked afterwards. I had actually gone through the entire process of drawing the character and drawing the character with pencil, then inking, and then moving right into coloring with my watercolors. That was a lot of fun, and it's definitely something that I would love to kind of do on a regular basis, especially here during my pencil, ink, and brush sessions. But depending on what I'm working on, the piece is going to take a while. So obviously this piece, even to get it to this pencil stage, took me a couple of hours last week. So if you've seen that last week, then you'll know it actually took a while because, I had to think about what it was I wanted to draw first, and then had to pose everybody, kind of get the scene together, and then afterwards it was a matter of, what are these people wearing? And I had to refer to other examples of when I've, drawn these characters, so it took a little bit. But, I think there's something to be said for maybe me not taking so long to complete a piece, and actually having an idea in mind when I sit down, so that the next time we come together and you see me here drawing, it's like, oh, well, this is a piece I've already been working on because I had this idea in my head that I just want to get down. Believe me, there are a lot of ideas that are like that, but I want you to see the full process. But, maybe in a future session, you'll actually tune in and you'll see me working on something that, off camera, I had already put together. The ink a little closer. So now her leg is missing, so get in here and I know where it's supposed to be. Her knee should be right around there. Draw that in there that way. Okay. See, sliding the ink over to my other hand so I can take better hold of it. Okay. There we go. Alright. So now we're going to go in on her leg. I want to redo him here. There's, I don't know. You know, let's just go in. So, I don't know. Back to my rant. And it's not because it's, like, deeply affecting me, but, you know, it's something that I guess I really feel that we as artists need to avoid doing at all costs. Let's not tear down other people. Let's be more supportive of other people doing their own work and exploring their own methods and ways and even their reasons for it. And let's say, you know what? I see what you're trying to do and it looks fantastic. We don't have to be that type of critical about someone's work. If you don't like it, then don't say anything about it at all. Move on with your life. It's not that big of a deal. That's the way I look at that. But if you are going to say something, be constructive about it. Be positive about it. You know, when it comes to, you know, fixing artwork, fix your own. Fix your own artwork. Go back at your old pieces and say, I can fix this. I know what I was trying to do, and I know that my skill wasn't where it should have been, but I'm better now as an artist. So let me go back and fix my own work. Fix your own work before you start trying to sit down to fix somebody else's. That's my final word on that. I think that's another way in which we become better artists, when we look at our own work with a critical eye. You know, there was some other artists who I don't even follow, but I just kind of saw that, you know, their video was recommended, and he was trying to fix bad logos or something like that, or I don't know what the video was about, but it was like, can I fix this? And I'm like, ugh, another artist trying to fix another artist's work. That's shitty. That's really bad form. Fix your own work. And I mean that. Just go find, and as artists, I know we all have our pieces just kind of lying around, sitting around. Fix your own stuff. You know, say, hey, so there was this piece that I had developed some years ago and wasn't great. So today we're going to be working on it and fixing it, making it better. You know, maybe, and I'm going to take myself as an example here. My hand is not as steady as I would like it to be. You know, I feel I've got some really great lines, but my hands aren't steady. So maybe that caused the piece to suffer. So we're going to be going over it and redoing everything that I did start to finish. And you know, hey, you know, maybe that's something that I'll do here too. As I'll sit down and I will look at a piece that I did and say, I can make this better because I'm now a better artist and I can do that. Maybe that will be a thing. Who knows? I mean, I can see myself doing that, but for the love of everything, stop trying to fix other people's work, especially if they didn't ask you to. You know, for you to take it upon yourself to do that, just no, just let it alone. Just let it be. Okay, that's my point. That's what I was getting to with this whole rant. Let's focus on the work here. Do. Change that hand. Wash my hand. Got ink all over my fingers. And that's a good point too. I wonder what piece I would fix of mine were I in the mood and the mindset to do so. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at everything I've got going on. Good grief, I've got ink all over this brush. I would really have to dig through the stuff that I've got. To see what piece of work of mine I would want to redo. You know, I've got a couple of other pieces that I started here that I don't think I finished. So we could always do that. And I'm not just talking about the comic pages. I mean, those do exist. Maybe this piece would end up being that one that I would say, let's redo it, because so far... About to lose a glob of ink right there. Let's get that off there. There we go. One thing that I definitely want to do with this series is kind of come up with a time limit to be on screen and painting, but I don't know. Maybe that won't work the way I think it will. Because I don't want to, you know, have you guys sitting here for hours and hours watching me do this, but, you know, I'm kind of in the flow right now. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I did see some other really great videos about creating art that I think are worth pointing out, or at least just discussing. You know, when artists talk about art education, do I need to go to school to be an artist? I did, and it was after graduating that I realized I didn't have to do that, that I could have gone for anything else. And the regret that I have is that I didn't go for anything else. I mean, I'm working on my bachelor's degree right now, for business. I'm getting a business degree in human resources management. And I'm really, really passionate about that. But this is definitely something that I decided that, years after going to school, that, I'm really enjoying the field right now, and I want to do more of this. And I want to go into the industry, not necessarily as an artist, but as someone who can help art business. And I love human resources. I think it's really great. And I look at it as being a way of helping professional artists kind of fall in and help to integrate themselves and get used to how art business works. I want to help businesses that center on art and publishing, and so that's why I decided to get my degree in human resources management, to help me learn the industry, but also, again, to help artists, get used to and accustomed to and, feel as though they're being taken care of within the industry of the art business. So I don't know if, that's really going to be getting much play, but, it's definitely something that I'm really, really excited about doing. But as I said, I did not actually have to go to school for art. It's not that I didn't learn anything, it's just that I don't think that it really helped at all. I'm in debt, a lot of it, and apparently, other artists have spoken about this before as well. In particular, artists who have gone to school. I guess we've all said, didn't really have to go to school for this. And the big problem about art school that I don't think I've actually heard anyone touch upon yet is that, well, maybe a few people have. It's expensive. It absolutely is. And what ends up happening is you go through all of this great expense to attend a school for art, and then whatever happens after your schooling, you're not really prepared for the business world any more than what you were, unless, your education was much more comprehensive than everybody else's. And I can tell you right now, it's probably the exception, and probably has more to do with your school than it does with art education in general. Because by the way it sounds, I mean, yes, anecdotally, but just by the way it sounds, our art schools did not prepare us for the business world, did not prepare us for art as an industry. We already know how to do the things we know how to do, and if we just, again, as I said earlier, if we just practice the things that we enjoy and the things that we like doing, instead of trying to spend so much time and energy focusing on classes and courses and learning skills that don't really amount to much of what we're trying to do artistically, then we probably would have been better off not attending school. And I do regret going to art school only because of the amount of debt that it incurred on me, and I love the connections and the people that I met. And that's one good thing about going to art school is that, yeah, you meet great people. But that's not really the reason we go to art school. The reason we go to art school is because we think that art school will prepare us professionally for the art industry. It does not. Not unless we're being specifically taught by professional artists, and even then, that's probably going to be something, a part of the curriculum that maybe they don't intend to seep in, but it's because they've been in the industry, so they know what the industry demands. I feel that art classes should focus more on, helping artists look at each other's work and look at their own work with, yes, absolutely, a critical eye, but with an eye mostly for improving our own work. And the costs of an art education, unfortunately, outstrip the benefits. Because when you have traditional art education, as I said before, the art industry is incredibly competitive. And so when you have art education, it's designed to, kind of operate like any other major, like any other aspect of formal education at the college or university level. And what ends up happening is you end up having to pay thousands of dollars to learn how to do things that you already know how to do and would get better if you just practice them on your own, while also learning things that won't necessarily help your career in art. Don't get me wrong, I think English and writing composition classes are absolutely necessary at all levels for really just about anybody. However, I think that an art degree itself should come from an art school, and art schools should not be as expensive as they are. And it really depends on what we're teaching artists. Are we teaching them traditional ways of doing art, which is what I do, with brushes and pencils and paints? Or are we teaching them digital art, which is where a lot of the industry is going? And knowing full well that those digital tools that we're teaching them on are going to become very outdated very fast by the time they graduate. I myself was an art major when I went to East Stroudsburg University in Pennsylvania. And ESU is a state school, but it's mostly a state school for teachers. I think it's what was called a normalcy school. And there are a lot of teachers there, people who go there for their teaching degrees. And ESU did a lot of really great things, and I had some really great teachers. But then I left that school and I went to the Art Institute. Yes, if you are familiar with all the fun things going on with the Art Institute, yes, that was. I went to that school at the time when that was a thing. And, I absolutely felt like I was taken for granted, but I mean, here I am, trying to make my own way. I learned animation. I feel as though in a lot of ways I did learn some things that I didn't already. And I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to go for animation was because, and I said this to my family and everyone when I was first putting together my application for it, that I want to learn how to do these things. I want to learn something different. I want to feel as though I'm going to learn something, because as a fine art major, this is what I already do. This is what I've taught myself to do. So I didn't necessarily need to go in for that. But the problem with that art education is, again, it's expensive. And it's expensive in a way that we can probably say for other majors it may be justified, but not for an art major. You're in competition with so many other people who are at, their own level for the type of work that they're creating. And because of the work that we produce is subject to the opinions of ourselves and anyone who's going to be looking at it, and that does include any potential employers. Those employers are looking for work that's at a certain level of polish. And a lot of them aren't really going to be interested in bringing on somebody who can't produce work that looks like it would translate into the type of work that they're looking to develop. So what I mean is, if you're going to school for animation, okay, you're going to school for animation. Probably anyone who's looking to employ you as an animator wants you to have a certain level of skill and wants your work to look a certain way. And that way is going to be, does this look like something that, does this person's work look like the work of an animator? It's not so much, I think it's not really so much about like, oh, well, this doesn't look like anything we produce. That's something that we as artists tell each other that, hey, maybe, when you go show off your portfolio somewhere, you're going to show them how you can do what they do. And, there's merit to that. That does actually make sense. But I think a lot of times it's more, where are you with translating this work into some type of animation? Or where are you with translating this work into something that would be shipped as a final product for this type of project? They're looking at it one way and we're looking at it an entirely different way. I think that what ends up happening with art school is that it's not really preparing us in that way unless you're going to a school for art. Just want to do some type of wavy something right there for this portal. you're spending all of that money getting an art education that's probably not really going to help you get an art job. That's the problem. Now, there we go. Okay. All right. So, not entirely finished, but I think I can do the rest of that, and I think I will do the rest of that off screen. So, I do want to thank you for joining me. It has been a wonderful hour and a half talking to you about how I believe that we can be better as artists, better people to each other as well, and better professionals in the field, and helping us to, share our experience, but also build up the industry with more sympathetic artists, with more compassionate artists who are interested in the success not only of themselves, but also in building that success for other people. Just by, listening more and paying attention more and just generally being more supportive. I'm not going to grind that axe anymore. That has already happened. But it's definitely something I am truly passionate about. So, thank you for joining me. Next week, what I would love to do, if I don't finish that off screen, is to actually show you the colors. And how I'm going to be doing that. But I need the inks to completely dry before I do that. And I'm probably going to go in and just kind of clean up a little more about what's happening here. So, again, thank you for joining me. I will see you next Saturday. I will be here, promise you, next Saturday at 1 p.m. We will be starting in and going directly into laying down our base colors and really playing with a few other things and getting all that done. I'm going to clean up everything, and then we're going to see where the piece takes us. Hope that you all take care and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.